The following podcast is taken from a live broadcast on Inspire FM.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, welcome to Sister Speak. You're here with me, Mariam. Also joined with me in the studio is
me, Fareen.
And welcome to the show. Today is the last show of 2023. We're going to use the show to reflect and think about our year and how that went for us. But before we do that, Fareen, what is our show about?
So our show is a platform for Muslim girls to voice their own opinions on current events and issues and form discussions on general topics such as religion, culture, politics, etc. Please note all opinions and views are our own and we respect all others.
Yes, and if you really want to join the show and contribute to the discussion, how can they do that?
So you can call us on 01582 481 822 or you can send us a WhatsApp message on 07779 481 822. We are also live on Facebook at Inspire FM Luton, and then you can also send us any messages or any thoughts, any ideas of what you want to hear on the show on Instagram at Sister Speak. And yeah, we have TikTok and Twitter that nobody really follows. So we have Sister Speak _ for Twitter, and then for TikTok we have the same thing, Sister Speak _.
So there's lots of ways of you joining the show or to engage with us, and we'd love to hear from you. So the first segment of the show that we will just dive into is called the Thought of the Week. So this is a segment where we share a personal anecdote, or we share something that's thoughtful, or just something that we've just been thinking about.
Yeah, so my thought of the week is going to be understanding. I mean, understanding is something that you need in every aspect of your life. Mm-hmm. With your friends, with your parents, in any kind of relationship, mm-hmm. just in life. So it's something that it's something that you, as you grow, you understand. You understand more. So for example, in a friendship, making the effort to actually go out with someone and understanding that as we grow we get busy, we don't have time for everything, and when we're making the effort to hang out with you is because we're making a commitment, we're taking time out of our day, mm-hmm. and if that person can't make it, or if it's life, you get busy. So just understanding what the other person is going through and why they're saying I'm busy, I think this is really important. And this happens in with your friends, with work, when someone's going out in a work environment, you're like, I can't come, I'm busy. Then just understand that person just needs their space. And it's something that takes really, that as you grow, you understand more, you understand to understand other people's situations and, life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what comes into mind is the idea of having consideration, because to be able to understand someone, you need to consider what their plight is and what they're going through. And I think that is a sense of emotional intelligence, that what you're really kind of talking about. And I think we should be very self-aware to be able to have awareness of others. How does our actions be received by another individual, and just being a bit open-minded. So thank you for that, Fareen. We are joined with Lamisa, who has joined us in the studio. Thank you for coming. Okay, just again, we are joined with okay. Sorry, it's just a bit of technical difficulties.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Thank you, Lamisa, for joining us.
That's okay.
We just had our thought of the week, and Fareen just talked about the idea of understanding people and having consideration, and how that impacts people, especially when you're trying to exercise emotional intelligence. So over to you now on your thought of the week.
My thought for the week. So many thoughts this week.
We're here to listen.
I guess I was thinking, obviously, because it is the end of the year and it is our end of the year show, and I guess we will be talking more about this later on, but more about kind of my reflections and how I want to be for next year, I guess, is my main thought for the week. I was thinking yesterday about certain things that I want to change and certain things that I kind of want to do more of. So yeah, I guess my thought for the week this week is more about resolutions and perhaps how I can make more attainable ones, because we always have the habit of making New Year's resolutions, and then I'm very guilty of not being able to stick to them. So I want to be able to figure out a way to make these improvements within myself, but actually be able to make them, not just say them.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. Someone actually was messaging me today as well about their resolutions, and it's actually an exercise I don't do. I don't tend to write down that this is what I want to achieve. I'll have things in mind, but it wouldn't be concretized. It's not something that I would really hold myself to. I think for me, I reflect over the year, and maybe there's like one or two things that I want to introduce into my life, and I'll try to do that. But I'm quite fluid, so it's quite interesting when people really try to uphold them. Do you think it's an effective way to hold yourself accountable?
In terms of like them being concrete and things like that, whether I write them down or whether I just have them in my head, they're kind of things that I think, okay, like I do go through a proper reflection period, I think, and I think these are the things that I would like to do differently. But then I think once the year starts and things go, like life just kind of moves on, and I guess how much of the time do we spend kind of thinking about us and ourselves and how we want to improve ourselves? That side of things can kind of get overlooked, I think, a lot of the time. And actually these things do take a conscious effort, I think, for you to implement them into your life. So the reflection part of it is all well and good. It's the kind of taking it forward and actually building upon it, which I think is something that I need to change.
Following it by action.
I'm like Lemisa. I also always make my resolutions, and I think when 2023 was ending, we did the same resolution kind of show, and I said I have one main resolution for every single month. That's not something I'm doing this year, because every single month something happens and you start making resolutions as you go. So for example, in January you can have 2 more on your list, but I do tend to make a lot of resolutions because then I don't forget, but I just, if I don't have them written down or in my mind that I want to do it, I'm not going to do it. So.
I think it is a good time because it does kind of feel like you're starting something new. As silly as it is, like, we can always change at any point in time. You don't necessarily have to do it at New Year's. I think everyone has known that by now. But it's more kind of like this New Year period kind of feels like, okay, we're getting a fresh start. So it's a good time to try and implement these things if possible. So yeah, I think just this year, just making them a bit smaller and a bit more attainable, and they're going to be not things that I'm starting afresh or completely out of the blue. It's going to be things that I've tried to already start, and I want to push them forward.
And what does that look like for you in terms of like maybe one tangible
thing? So I think one tangible thing is healthy eating, because I've already started doing more and more exercise and go to the gym more often.
Well done.
Granted that this past couple of weeks it hasn't been great, but
it's the Christmas period.
Christmas period, exactly. That's what I'm blaming it on. But like, I have started that, so that's good. I hope to keep that up, and I think healthy eating now will be the next step in that, and trying to get away from heavy curry and rice every single day. Not that that's a bad, maybe it might be a bad thing, I don't know, but having more salads, having more things like that, I feel like that's one goal I could achieve. And then mindset wise as well, I think is another thing that I'm thinking of.
I think it really does help when what you eat, it does really impact your body and how you actually feel in that day. Even for me, when I tend to drink a lot of smoothies, so I try to pack a lot of veg inside it, because
that's really good.
Because I'm too lazy to actually just have it throughout the day. So I'll just make one. So make it easy for yourself. I think that's kind of the main thing I'm trying to go for.
Exactly.
What works for you and what makes it easy for yourself. And also, if you want to learn how to cultivate good habits, you should read Atomic Habits.
Okay, you know what? I might make that my New Year's resolution.
And then we can have a book show. That'd be really good.
After a whole year of her conditioning us to buy the book, I will buy it and I'll have a good read.
It's not as effective because you still haven't read it.
She needs to be more convincing.
I don't know when I will be compelling, but perhaps now is the time. So thank you both for your thought of the week. I think my thought of the week is a reflection as well. I think this year, I think it's quite similar to last year as well, I just feel really grateful to Allah in terms of the kind of people that I've met this year. I definitely think one of the aspects of risk is companions and people. And I was having a conversation with someone who was really inspiring last week, and he's someone that does a lot of things for the Muslim community. I genuinely think he's a huge asset. So he organized one of the first tech fests in the country, in the Royal Institution, where I think some of the periodic table elements were discovered. So it was a huge success, and I think I discussed that on the show before. And we were just discussing about how I was really intrigued in terms of like what kind of prompted him to come into this kind of area of work, and what prompted him to even organize such a great exhibition. I mean, it's like a conference type of thing. And one thing that we kind of discuss and we kind of whittle it down to is about characteristics, and how it's so important to adopt the idea of having sincerity, because when you're sincere, it kind of transcends in terms of your actions. And as Muslims, we have so many things that we're contending with, and especially in the climate that we're in now politically as well, we see that the thing that holds people together is their faith and their their unwavering faith in God, despite the challenges, despite the hurdles, and an understanding that you should be unapologetic about your values and principles, and not to let anyone kind of like impede that. And it just really made me feel so inspired, because it's so easy, especially when you're working with institutions that sometimes make you feel compelled to uphold their kind of values, and you feel the need to assimilate to them. It's just so refreshing to see Muslims who are challenging that, who are very unapologetic, who are really upholding their principles, but wanting to be facilitators. They're doing it for the sake of God. And I just felt really fortunate to be privileged with that with the time that I had with that individual. Hopefully he'll come on our show soon. I say 2023, so in 2024 we'll make this clip and make sure he comes to our show. But I think overall, like, my thought of the week is I just feel really, really fortunate that Allah puts such incredible people in my path, and they impart so much knowledge and skills upon me, and I don't know how I don't even contribute back, but I just think I'm so fortunate.
I'm sure you do contribute back, Mariam, in ways you don't even realise. Every single conversation with her is so enlightening,
you do
isn't
it
it?
for us.
And for me, it's just I'm just so.
It's a two-way thing, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I hope so, but I'm just so blown away, and I just feel really grateful to Allah that He puts these kind of people in my life. And I think one of the things that I continually want to do is to put people around me that make me feel inspired, because that will make you that'll give you the vigor to kind of continue. And especially my passion to facilitate change for the community. I think more than ever, as we can see what's happening around the world, we have to be united, and we have to learn to use our skills for the community. So that's my thought of the week. Does anyone have any additional thoughts?
Your thoughts of the week are so inspiring. You never have any thoughts. All you think is in your head. Thank you, Mariam.
You're welcome.
It's Mariam's segment of the show.
It's Mariam's segment. Oh my goodness. Both of you are too kind. Too kind. Okay, so that wraps up our first segment. I'm going to move on to just doing a couple of questions from the Freshly Grounded game, which we often play. So I think the first question I want to ask, and actually we kind of played this before the show, but I'm going to start with Lamisa, is if someone could see your actions and not hear your words, what would they say your priorities are?
Oh.
You have to think this question so much before you answer it.
Wait, so someone could see my actions and not my words, what would they think my priorities are? Well, I don't know. To be honest, I think I'm just running around like a mad woman. I'm not sure, to be honest. I think I genuinely have no clue. I feel like with my actions, I think a lot of the things that I do has to be accompanied with what I say. I think a lot of the things I put out into the world is through my speech. The Sister Speak show, it goes in line with that. I feel like I'm a very vocal person. And maybe I need to do more actions and be less vocal. I don't know. Maybe that's something to reflect on. But I guess through my actions, hopefully that they could see what I would want them to see is that I'm a hardworking person and I try to do good in the world. Hopefully all my actions do bring about some type of good. But yeah, I'm not entirely sure what the answer to that question would be.
That's one interpretation. That's quite interesting take on it in terms of how you're viewing the question. But I think what I kind of interpreted this question to be is if someone just objectively viewed your routine and the things that you're interested in and you engage with, how would they kind of recognize you as a person, or how do they capture you as a person?
That's quite interesting, because I was going to say I feel like this question shouldn't be asked to the individual but rather the people around the individual.
But if that's if it's a prompt of self-reflection, if you think about your routine and what you
about my routine and what I do,
your interests and how you engage,
I guess from my interests and things like that, they would see a lot of my work in it. That's just a major part of who I am, I guess. Unfortunately, it's it's a large part of what I do every single day, so they would see that. And then interest wise, I think they would see my interest for radio, they'd see my interest for keeping up with like current affairs that are going on, and they maybe see that I'm trying to put more effort into hanging out with my friends and doing things like that. So yeah, I think that's what they'd see.
That's a very fair a way of capturing your routine and your interests. I think, Vereen, what do you think other people would objectively say about you?
Honestly, I think people will think I'm lazy, because I feel like I don't do enough in my routine. And I'm thinking about my routine now. Yeah. I feel like for example, I have so many assignments to do, but I'm not prioritizing them because I just procrastinate so much. So I just think people will think I'm lazy.
They'll just think you're a student.
Yeah, probably they relate to a lot of stuff. But my
I can
priority
relate.
right now, I think, is just family, because I live away. Then I really, when I'm at home, I really like to be, at home and
That's
be
great.
present.
Yeah.
But obviously, uni assignments and everything is so important. So I think they'll see me as a family person, and not really that academic, which I try to be, but we're trying. What about you, Mariam?
I think for me, my priorities right now, I think my priorities haven't changed much, but I think it looks different now. So I think they would see that I've slowed down a little bit, and I think that's because of all the things that's happened in my life recently. It's just really just kind of taking one day as it goes, because it's just been so challenging. But I think the same kind of interests I have, the passions and all of those things still exist, but it's just not at the same vigor. I think I've really taken a pause and just recognizing like I need to feel 100%. So I think if anyone was looking at if they were looking at me objectively, they would just think, okay, she's actually really slowed down. If I can capture it.
I think I was thinking about this recently too. I think that we have periods in our life where we slow down, and then periods of our life where we do work harder, and I think that is 100% okay. Like, having the time to, just kind of process thoughts and go through day by day everything, recuperating yourself in a way and regaining your energy is so important, so that in that next stretch of your life where you feel like now's the time where I need to push myself, you have all of that energy to be able to do that. And I think I've come to a point where I've realised that life is not always, you're going to be able to be constant, and it is that kind of fluctuating pace that we have. I think for me personally, now's my time to start upping it a bit, but Marian's at the pace where she needs to kind of take it a bit slower, and that's absolutely okay. Everyone needs that time. So yeah, I think it's important that we're able to recognize when each stage is, if that makes sense.
I think it's really important. I think because we're so accustomed to a certain trajectory, so when we're in school, we recognize that we have to pass our exams. When we get to sixth form, we have to get to university, and when we get to university, we have to get a job. And there's always a constant kind of trajectory that we have to uphold. And so once you surpass all of those things, you recognize the most important asset to yourself is yourself. And I just think that when your intrinsic kind of circumstances start to make you feel diminished, I think that at that point you recognize, actually, I need to invest in myself, and everything around me can come second. It's secondary. Primary kind of focus is yourself, and how I feel in terms of my mental health and in terms of my passions and my interests. Those things are the things that I should be taking care of, as opposed to just constantly putting outputs, because that's what the world expects you. So for me, it's been I think for me, it's been kind of a hallmark of my development, and understanding that actually I really do need the space and time to kind of pause and to reconfigure in a way, because I just had so much going on, and that's actually been really good. I think maybe since September onwards, it's just been challenge after challenge, hurdle after hurdle. But I think in this entire month, I just really have been focused on how do I make my well-being be the priority, and I'm going to slowly build myself up. And I think recognize that people are in different paces is completely fine, but it's just communicating that as well with people around you, because sometimes people may misconstrue why you're not engaged. And I think it's just having that honest conversation that this is right now not the priority for me, because of however comfortable you are to share, I have other kind of factors in my life that it's competing with my attention. So I think it's just really important to recognize how you feel, and then I think being present with your emotions, because to be able to regulate them, you have to be able to be in control. And if you feel like you're out of control, then that's when you need to take a pause and think, okay, what are the things that are making me feel that I don't have autonomy of myself? So yeah, thank you for that, Lemisa, just kind of reminding us of that. Vereen, did you have?
No. I was reflecting on your thoughts.
Oh, thank you. Another question I have is, what are you the most thankful to Allah for this week?
This week?
Yeah, just this week.
I'm gonna say my dad, because this week I like talking a lot with my dad, because obviously he has so much, dads have so much knowledge and so much wisdom and everything, and just him sitting with me when I'm like, I don't know, doing whatever, and just talking with me through it, and not making me feel dumb for not knowing it. Just I appreciate that so much. And I'm really thankful for my dad, because he is always, I've always talked about this, but he's always pushing me to do stuff and get out of my comfort zone. And it's just, He's just like my angel forever.
Oh, we should invite your dad on the show.
Yeah,
we should
we
have a
should.
dad show with all our dads.
I was thinking that too, actually. It'd be good to learn about their experiences
Yeah.
and, you know, everything that they've been through. Yeah, I mean, I would always, my top is always, I think Mariam knows as well,
Yeah.
always my two parents. They are my rock. That's just the way I put it. But other things that I'm also grateful for this week is the people that I've met. Like Mariam, you said you met loads of great people this year. I too, alhamdulillah, I've been blessed with a lot of friendships that I've made this year that I'm just so thankful for. Shout out to everyone that I met at Genua. They were all like, you know, why haven't you mentioned us on our show? But yeah, to everyone that I met on that trip, they were just all amazing, and all of them are like, I'm sure, lifelong friends. But then also, like, some of my friends this year that I met at med school were like, they are such amazing people, and I'm so glad to have been put, you know, to have been put on the same placements in them, and then be able to develop a friendship through that. They're just really, really great people. I've never met people where you just feel so much at ease in their presence. So yeah, my friends out there, they know who they are, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, I'm so grateful
cute
to have met them, and I'm really thankful for them.
What's the difference between, because I remember you talking about your friendships last year actually, in terms of like how you're starting off, and it was quite challenging for you actually to make, because of like I guess because you were moving away from different placements and things like that. What's the difference between now and then? I'm quite interested to like, what differentiates this group of friends who I can see that they make you feel like you can be your authentic self. Compared to the others.
I think I've met a lot of people, and I enjoy meeting people and making friendships with people. I think that's one of the things I enjoy, is put myself in places where I don't know anyone and just trying to make friends. I don't know if that's weird.
That's
Sweet, constantly meeting new people. But I think the thing that makes these people, this particular set of people different is, for me personally, I feel like they are just so nice. There's no other way to put it. There's no kind of motive. There's something underlying that you might feel like they're trying to dig back at you or anything like that. There's no hard feelings at all. They're just really genuine, nice people, and I think that's what makes these people different. I've met loads of people, and these guys are just so accepting. I think that's what the word is, and they're just so lovely, and they just encourage me to be kind of the best version of myself. I think that's what I really appreciate too. They're so smart, all of them. all three of them are just amazingly smart, but
so are you.
I'm not on their level, but alhamdulillah, they're so lovely to me, and they push me along. So yeah, that's what makes these guys different. I think they're just very, very genuine people, and I think it can be hard to find genuine people. So yeah.
Yeah. Do you feel like, though, in terms of friendships, that different friends serve different purposes?
I don't know. See, for me, when I meet with people and I have friends, I don't necessarily think of them serving a purpose, even though we all serve a purpose to everyone. I think for me, it's more about what time feels like when I'm with them, if that makes sense, and the experiences that I have with them, and how it's very much grounded in my emotions of how I am with that person or how I'm feeling with that person. There's a lot of people that I've met this year where I just feel just very comfortable. I can just tell that I'm not on edge around these people, and I think that's what it is. With regards to like different purposes, I guess it depends the type of friendship that you have. I do agree with you from that point, in the sense that we have different types of friends who we will talk about different things with, or we'll go through different experiences with, and I think that's kind of what you mean by that. But I think for me, with all friendships, I try and be 100% present, and it's more about how I feel with the person at the time more than anything.
I think there's something that I've been reflecting on as well, is that how do I feel in terms of certain people make me feel great, but I think recently I've been thinking about how if I feel 100% with an individual, and they can be so lovely and so kind and loving, but if they don't really actually resonate with a lot of my experiences, and they fail to see my perspective, and it's not that I want people to have the same perspective as me, but it's just I think one of the things I was discussing with someone is that when people have a homogeneous view of certain things, I really struggle. And it's not that because I see them myself as superior, it's just that I've been exposed to so much different types of perspectives that I find it difficult when someone's worldview is premised on one homogeneous way. And I think despite people's characters being absolutely lovely, I don't know if it's because the kind of extrinsic circumstances in my life right now that I just want to feel completely 100%. I think I've been thinking about that because I have like two different groups of friends, and I feel like one group of friends that I feel 100% with, and I just feel my authentic self, and they also have been exposed to the things that I've been exposed to. And then I have another set of group of friends who adore me and I adore them. However, when it comes to certain topics or conversation, it's just their way of seeing things, it just does not resonate with me. And it's not that it's bad or it's right or wrong, it's just it doesn't align with me. So I think it's just I've been thinking about that a lot because it's just I feel drained. There's just a certain period of time that I can't spend with them. Whereas when I'm with one group of friends, I can spend endlessly time with them and I feel my best. So I don't know, any quick thoughts on that before we wrap up the show?
I think that's interesting, but I think that's just how it's just about navigating people, you know. I think you're going to meet people who are your friends who don't necessarily see eye to eye, or who can't go who may not be able to go further into that conversation.
I'm going to pause on that thought because we are in the last few seconds.
I see the flashing.
So we'll look forward to hearing your thoughts in the next half of the show. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, this is Atif Nawaz. Listen to Inspire FM shows in your time by heading over to inspirefm.org or listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Ya hala, ya hala, ya hala.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, welcome back to Sister Speak. On the first half of the show, we were just discussing our reflections and we were playing the Freshly Grounded game. I think I'll do 2 more questions and then we can delve into the main topic of the show, which will be about our year and how we introspected. So the first, one of the questions that I want to ask, which I think because both of you have talked so highly of your parents, I think is very apt. So I'm going to start off with you, Fareen. Tell me something about your father that you didn't appreciate until you became older.
How hard he works to actually make sure that we're okay. When I was younger, I used to, when I used to come from work on something, I never really paid attention to him and like give him time to sit with him and ask him, how was your day? Or whenever he would ask me, I would be like, I'm going out with my friends. I really didn't appreciate that time with my dad, which I'm doing now. Like I'm doing a lot now. And I just spending time with my dad is just something that I didn't appreciate that much. And he had more free time when I was young, and now he's a lot busy. So I kind of miss that. I kind of regret not using that time to kind of sit down and talk with him and just having a nice conversation with him.
But I suppose that's something you can do now since you reflected on it. And I think at that when we're younger, we don't recognize the value of things, and because we don't actually process them and we don't have the ability to comprehend how much impact this kind of conversation can have. So the fact that you recognize that, and even I would say quite early on as well in your life, it's a very good thing. Lemisa, what's your thoughts on this?
I think that's something everyone realizes afterwards. I do agree. Also how hard they work, and you don't realize the amount of thought they put behind their actions. You just kind of take it as face value, and then when you think about it, you're like, actually they must have thought about that for a while before they did that. So that's very true.
What's with that, that they don't say what actually happened in their life, and then once you're like randomly sitting at the dinner table, and then they say the most jaw-dropping thing about their life, and you're like, how did this happen in your life? And you're still sitting here normally, and then that's why I like listening about my dad's life so much, because he, when something happens to me, and then everyone knows, like in 30 minutes everyone knows every single detail, what I was wearing, everything. And my dad, he something happens to him, and like for 25 years he doesn't say anything, and then randomly remembers and then tells us, and we're all at the dinner table with our mouths open, like, how did this happen to you? And you're like sitting here so normally. So sorry, I just cut you off. That's
very true. My dad's the same.
I think it's around that. So.
I think one thing that I really do appreciate now is actually just the mindset that I think he gave me from a young age. I think my parents, especially my dad, I would say, really gave me a strong-headed mindset and kind of imparted on me a certain level of confidence that I do carry and that I'm grateful for. And I think without that kind of backing, I think I would have been a very different person. So I think nowadays more and more I'm realizing the reason I am the way I am is because of the fact that my parents had brought me up that way, and especially my dad giving me that kind of attitude of, it doesn't matter what anyone else around you is doing, whatever you're doing is what's important, and that's what you should be putting your focus on. I think that type of mindset has been very, very useful for me up until now, and that's what I'm really grateful for.
Yeah. I agree with you, Lamisa. And my dad always gave me that mindset too. But the one thing that my dad always gave me too is you should never follow what other people are doing, right? So you should always obviously be on your deen and do what's good for you. So what happened with my dad was that he was working in this place, and then that place had like a issue or something. But before that issue happened, my dad like had intuition that something bad was going on with the company. So he left, and then everyone in the company was like, you shouldn't have left, the positions were so good and everything. But then, I don't know if it's karma or something, but then all of those people, it didn't work out for them. But then it did work out for my dad. So what my dad always says to me is never chase just because other people are chasing, if you feel like something bad's gonna happen, if it's not good for you, then don't do it. And it's something that I've been listening my whole life, and now that I'm now in this kind of developing, changing mindset era, then it's something that I really try to implement. So whenever it's like imagine there's a jacket or something that everyone's buying that you don't buy it. So that's kind of the mindset that he gave me.
I think it's look at this phenomenal kind of advice that we get from our dads. I think for them, one of the things that we can recognize is that the reason why they don't impart those kind of conversations is because they're so fixated, not fixated, but they were unfortunately in a space where they had survival mode, and so therefore they don't even have the scope to talk about these things. And so when suddenly they have this space, and for them it's very arbitrary, they just discuss something that happened to them. For us it's quite jarring, because we're so shocked that how can someone that we live with went through such a huge ordeal and we never knew about it.
Yeah, I think it's something to do with their generation in a way as well. Like, it's not just the dads, the mums would also be like that too. I think we're a lot more in tune. Obviously there's so much more work to do, but we're a lot more in tune with our feelings and how we feel about certain things, and we're a lot more open to discuss things, whereas I think back in their time they weren't as open to discuss it, and it's more of a, this thing happened, I'm going to move on type of situation,
because they had no space to kind of ruminate about certain things. They just had to move on. So I think that's something that I even take away. Even I think my answer would be the same as you and Fareen, because I think the idea of just being thoughtful, I think it's something that we all can resonate with. If we like something, a certain food, our fathers will just buy so much of that, like an endless amount of that certain food. And my dad does that a lot, even sometimes to the point where he would want me to try something new, and I dislike it, but I'll just eat it anyways because I don't want to waste it. Because he thinks I like it, he'll go buy hundreds more of those things. But I just think that's I think it's a love language from our fathers, that they just want to showcase their love through food. And I think understanding love language is really important, because I think we're, like you said, Lamisa, we're more expressive in terms of verbalizing that, but for them it's through action. So that consideration does manifest, but we just have to be able to recognize it and acknowledge it. So yeah, I think those are very good reflections on that. One more question, because I really do like these questions, is what's a win you could really do with right now, and why?
What's a what, sorry?
A win. So something that really positive, that you just want something to happen in your life, and you could really do.
Oh, a win.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was like, what? What's a win that I could do in my life right now? So many.
I can't think of anything.
Oh,
really?
That's good.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Why do you feel very content? That means in your.
Yeah, I feel like there's nothing.
That's good.
Obviously, apart from the materialistic stuff and all of that, and there's nothing that I'm. I feel that I lack something or someone of. I think I'm really content with how I'm living my life right
That's
now.
really good.
I love that for you.
Thank you.
I feel like I've got a sudden, how would I describe it? A sudden hunger in a way to push myself forward academically. I feel like I was saying earlier, I feel like I've had my phase of being able to take the time to myself and maybe walking, and now I feel like I need to get into gear and start running. Whether it's going to happen or not is something different, but I feel like that is building up inside of me recently, and that's something that I really do want to manifest.
Wait, is it when not using social media? Because that might be something. Yeah, I'm gonna say that then. I know I'm such a social media person that I invest so much time in it, and it's actually so time consuming.
Do you know what you should do? Delete the app off your phone, and then whenever you do want to go on it through Safari, and then it becomes so much more hassle-some.
Yeah, honestly.
So you just don't go on it.
Yeah.
I
have to
hardly
do that.
use social media, but
That's what
I
I
want to
do.
be like you. Yeah, I want to be like you
And
guys.
put your phone on Do Not Disturb. That's my one way of. My phone's always on Do Not Disturb, and it means that my screen time has gone down
that's good.
to 0.
I don't have any notifications. I think that's one of the most liberating things ever. I just don't have any notifications. So I don't know when people call me, message me.
Yeah, that's what I used to. But Do Not Disturb is basically the same thing.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, no, let me.
Sorry.
Okay, I think we'll just delve into the main aspect of the show. So we are going to be talking about end of year reflections, and I'm going to ask the first question is, as we approach the end of the year, what are some moments or experiences that stood out for you in 2023?
Some moments that stood out for me. I'm going to say personally the fact that I had the guts, the kind of bravery to actually transfer unis in 3 days by myself, do all the paperwork and, cry, but do it. That's one moment that's going to stand out for me. Just having that so much anxiety, but still being able to do all the paperwork. It's such a long process and do all of that under pressure. I'm going to say that's the moment that stood out for me.
I'm so proud of you. I think, and it's so amazing for me to sit here and hear that, because I saw both of your processes of getting into university. So it's the fact that it shows that you have the potential, and I think those kind of situations really builds your character, and it shows what you're capable of. And I think especially the transition, I definitely think the transition between sixth form and university, it's really significant as opposed to GCSE to sixth form.
Yeah.
Because I think the support that you receive from sixth form in terms of teachers, it's very different to university, because you're very independent. You're expected to be able to navigate your own issues, and you have to be proactive in communicating that, which is a life skill in of itself. But it just shows that you have the potential, you've got the capability. It's okay to cry through it too. I think most of us do, but you'll get there in the end. So well done for that. Lamisa, what about yourself?
There's I know this is the most predictable thing I'm going to say, but there's so many from 2023. I think my top 3, if I can do a top 3, would be number 1, meeting the people that I did. They were just alhamdulillah amazing. Number 2, getting through the academic year, because that was such a long academic year. Started in June 2022 and finished in June 2023, so it was a full year, and it was grueling, but alhamdulillah I passed all of those exams, and they were big exams, so that was a highlight. And then lastly, January was such a big highlight of my year. The experiences that I had, the people that I met, and just the inspiration that it gave me to the newfound inspiration that it gave me to kind of realize the change that I want to have on the world. That is something that I won't forget. So yeah, those are 3 highlights that I had.
That's amazing, and Journeyman was incredible. And I think we have if you want to listen to that show, we are on iTunes and Spotify.
Yeah, it's on Apple Podcasts. So I would give it a listen personally, but
we get a bit teary and things, so if you do want to hear us cry, it's a very good show. And I think for me personally, then I feel like this year has been a lot of development. I think last year I really plunged into uncomfortable circumstances to accelerate that, but I think this year it was a testimony of that. So everything that I've learned was put at the test. And I think especially that certain challenges that I faced in my life in the last few months, it really made me think about how much resistance I have, resilience, I guess it's a bit both, in terms of learning how to navigate issues that are completely kind of collapsing on you. How do I have the resilience to navigate that? And I think last year, because I plunged myself into uncomfortable circumstances, especially with the kind of social kind of interactions, I think for me, I'm a little bit more introverted. So I remember actually this year, one of the events I went to, I was so nervous to ask a question. I remember I had adrenaline. I just
that's so natural though. Everyone gets nervous.
I had such the level of adrenaline I had was I became clammy just to ask a question, but.
Do you ever get the shakes as well? Sometimes,
and it was just a question. I think it was an AI event, and I was just so nervous, and I wanted to put myself forward because I thought it's in a space where it should be a safe space, and no one's going to remember me, and I don't need to come back to this event if it was horribly wrong. So let's just try. And from that event, I met some incredible people, and I'm still friends with today. And also one of the persons that the person I spoke about in the first half of the show in terms of organizing the Tech Fest. I think I met that person there too. So it's just I think it's just understanding how I have developed certain skills and how I'm going to put them in practice. I think this year has been that highlight. But personally, I just feel like I'm really proud of myself to learn how to take a pause, because I think I've been just constantly firefighting
Yep.
in the last few months, but I really recognize that taking a step back has been a really good highlight for me, because it shows that I really have developed. I really understand myself, and I really know how to prioritize myself. Although like sometimes people may not understand, or even the closest people may not understand why you're behaving like that, the fact that I championed myself, I think is something that I want to continue to do. So yeah, I think that is my kind of experiences and highlights for this year. And I think the next kind of question is kind of like maybe a good segue for what we're going to be talking about. Reflecting on the challenges that you faced in 2023, what valuable lessons did you learn from them?
I'm going to say listening to my parents, listening to their advice. And actually, you know, when you listen to your parents' advice, you kind of just, it goes in your ear and then comes out the other, right? But then so this year basically I did that, and then it turned out horribly. So what was the question? How do we reflect on the challenges? Listening to my parents, listening to their advice, and actually, you know, putting the effort to include that advice in whatever I'm going to do. So that's one of the reasons, because I didn't listen to my parents' advice. I just so fixated on doing whatever I wanted to do, and it turned out horribly, and I went through so much stuff, but they were still there, you know, to help me through that. And yeah, that's what I'm gonna say. Just actually putting the effort to listen to what they're saying and include it in my life or my daily choices.
But also, I think that gives you a sense of learning, because I think once we're in difficult situations and then we realize actually what our parents have said is ultimately true, especially because of the experiences, that still does character build you. So I think it's still a learn. I'm not justifying you not listening to your parents. That's not what I'm saying at all. Please don't misconstrue this. But I just do think that it's still a learning process as well, especially if you're really young. Lamisa, what is your thoughts on this?
I think two main lessons. One is when things get difficult, kind of pushing through to a certain extent. Obviously, things do get better towards the end, and sometimes they just need a bit of time. So I think just hanging on sometimes is a way of doing things. The other thing is, often if your gut feeling is there, listen to it, because most of the time that's correct as well. If you have a feeling that something isn't right, or if you have a feeling that, you know, this is probably not going to work out good for me, or it's something that I need to stop, in any regard, listen to your gut, because your gut is telling you that for a reason. And I think I do listen to my gut most of the time, but there are some times when, you know, you just want to ignore things and you just want to
take a risk.
Yeah, so I think listening to your gut is really important, and actually that helps you steer clear of trouble most of the time.
That's really I think that's true as well. I think even I sometimes believe that gut instinct comes from God. I genuinely believe that Allah is guiding you in terms of what is actually good for you. That energy is just not correct for you. I think that's something that I actually struggle with, because sometimes I question, is it my gut or is it my anxiety? So it's kind of hard to differentiate. But I think just learning about yourself and just trusting God, and I think having that conversation with Allah, that I can't foresee this and I don't have clarity, but I'm praying for this clarity so I can be guided upon.
I think trusting God is a big
it's a
part
huge
of it.
aspect of it, and asking for clarity is something that I definitely have invoked a lot this year. I think something that for me is fundamental, especially kind of the things I'm engaged with. But yeah, for me, the valuable lessons, I think it bounces off your one, Lamisa, is understanding there's hardship after ease. I think for me, I think something that I've
hardship after ease.
Sorry. So my brain is not there right now. There we go. So after hardship, there's ease.
There's ease.
Yes. So I think for me, this year has been the year that I feel I've internalized that, and I really can see that in my life. And before, it's something that I would just repeat in parrot fashion. But I feel like this moment in time, I genuinely feel excited that there's ease going to come, and I feel anticipated, and I have full conviction that ease will come because of all the hardship that I faced. And I think subhanAllah, that is a sense of development, because before, although I would repeat it and I would know it, I wasn't convinced internally. And it's not that because I didn't believe in God, it's just very hard when you feel like the world's against you. You just don't feel like things are gonna get better. But now at this point, despite all the challenges I've had and all the people around me saying you're going through so much, but I just think, well, Easter's going to come very soon. I know it's going to come soon. I'm very excited because it's going to be really good. And that really has propelled me through the hardships that I've gone through. So alhamdulillah, I just feel so grateful to Allah. And I genuinely surrender myself to God, because I just think it's because of His mercy I've been able to adopt that mentality and internalize it. And I'm so grateful. And I hope that this is something that remains and strengthens within me, because I feel like you become an unstoppable force when you realize that actually God's taking care of you. You're just doing your best. And I really want that kind of quality within me. So alhamdulillah, I think that's something that I've learnt through this year.
I think it's something we can all kind of strive for at the end of the day. There's so many things that we stress about unnecessarily, or even necessarily, but at the end of the day, if you know that God is there and God you know is going to take care of everything and all your affairs, then it does. If you can fully internalize that will 100% take away a lot of the worries that you
100%. And I think it takes time. It's not something, like I said, it's taken me all these years up to this point for me to be able to kind of develop that. In terms of the next question, though, we've been discussing how our 2023 is, but I want to ask you, what are your main aspirations for 2024?
My main aspiration, let's see. Well, academically, I'm going to say the most basic ones is getting through first year and kind of doing my exams. But I think I'm going to say to actually work more on my deen. And it's something that obviously I try to do every day. But in 2024, I really want to, get out of Islamic knowledge. I've joined, a course and everything. And, just really learning about Islam and all the aspects of it and everything. Just being on that kind of spiritual journey and also academically everything. So that's my main inspiration.
And I think Ramadan is going to be a good opportunity for that. And it's on the 3rd month of the year, so that's very good. Lamisa, what about yourself?
I agree with Fareen, 100%. I think also for me, one of the biggest things is my mindset. I want to be able to take things on the chin a lot more, and have a more positive mindset towards things. I want to take things quite easy, if that makes sense. I don't want to be stressed all the time. When things go wrong, I want to be like, they've gone wrong and we can try and fix it, and try and take the negativity or the stress out of it a bit. I want to have a lot more of a chilled out mindset, and I think that's what I want to go for, because I feel like I'll be a lot happier that way. And I know that the coming year that's gonna happen, there are going to be certain challenges that I'm going to be faced with, and I think me having a mindset of, I know it's going to be hard, but I'm going to try and get through it regardless, is going to be a huge part of being able to overcome a lot of those challenges. So I think that's what I want to develop over the next year, but also start developing in preparation for next year.
Inshallah, next year goes well for you. I think having a mindset can really impact the quality of your life, because it's really what gets you through things. So I think for me as well, I think it's just really continuing to developing my mentality towards and how I confront different situations and how I respond to things as well. I think for me personally is I really want to make sure that next year, I think it's one of the lessons I actually learned as well, is next year that I don't put myself in spaces or in circumstances where I'm not seen as someone that's valuable, or they don't add value to me, and whether that's people or just conditions. I think that's something that I learned this year, because unfortunately I experienced both, where I was in a situation where I wasn't valued, whether it was people or even just the circumstances. And for me to be able to learn from that, I think just listening to your intuition, as you said, Lamisa, and gauging that very early on is something that I kind of aspire to next year. So because I think it'll help me be more effective in terms of just pursuing my passion. So I've tried to put myself forward for a certain voluntary thing that I want to do, and I definitely think it would be a huge step. So it's organizing a study session in a European country. Before I was a participant of these things, and now I want to be on the other side operationally. And I know that's going to be a huge it's going to be hugely challenging, especially with my kind of personality, as I'm quite introverted, but I definitely want to be able to recognize, actually, now I've learnt certain skills, I've put myself forward, I've learnt about contentment, I've learnt about the value of myself, and now in this situation, how do I navigate it? So for me, that's something that I really want to aspire to next year, is just continually build on what I've learn and refine myself. I think that's the biggest kind of aim next, to just keep refining.
Yeah, I think the refining thing is important, because I think a lot of it, like for me, when situations happen, getting through it, alhamdulillah, generally is fine. It's more about the emotions that stick with me afterwards, and that's the thing that I want to refine. It's more about how I react or how I personally feel about it. I don't want to have to harbour feelings for a long time or allow those feelings to have a huge effect. I want to be able to take things easy. That's the biggest thing.
I think it's quite. I think it's hard because we allow it to kind of grow within us, and because, like you said, it harbours within us. It's quite difficult to detach from it, and especially in the country that we live in, it's just so cold and we don't see that much sunlight. And I feel
blame it on the weather.
Blame it on the weather, as a British person would do. I do feel like an element of that as well. I think it all kind of is an amalgamated kind of approach, because I think that also kind of indicates mental health and your well-being and how you view yourself. I think it's just also good company. So I think it's multiple factors that you have to take care of.
Yeah, it's also your personality and just how your experiences as well. But I think, actively trying to shape yourself, and if you're the type of person that feels like you don't have that easygoing attitude and you want to implement it more, I think that's the first step towards getting to that page.
I think the willingness and to embrace and recognize that I don't have this within myself and I want to develop it. But also looking at people around you that do have that mentality, it's good to kind of mimic them and understand how do they approach certain scenarios. I think it's a good step forward. As a final question for this year, is thinking about the past year, what have you discovered about yourself that you may not have been aware of before?
But how I discovered about myself, I'm gonna say where was the question again? So
what have you discovered about yourself?
That I really don't know how to choose my friendships wisely. This is something that I learned this year, and I'm gonna try and implement it next year, and I really think who I'm spending my time with, who I'm trying to make effort to go out with, and just thinking really wisely if they're actually gonna they're gonna value me, like you said before, if they're gonna value me and actually apport something in my life, or they're just gonna be there.
In the last minute or so?
I am a person just like everyone else, and there's going to be situations which I can slip up, and that is also okay, and it's about how to grow from those situations. I think that's one of the biggest things that I learned, and I'm becoming an adult, and I'm 23, and there's a really big inshallah long life ahead of me, and there's lots of time to do things, and I have to rush myself. I just have to accept that I'm a person, and all of these parts are a part of me.
That's a really beautiful way to end kind of this year of 2023 Sister Speak. I actually want to say thank you both for doing amazing shows this year. I think you guys have contributed immensely, and it really does shape the show. But in the last kind of seconds, I do want to say about my kind of muzzing. So for me, it's just personally learning to be resilient. But we are now at the end of the show. So thank you for everyone for listening this year, and we look forward to joining in 2024.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. Why not tune in to our live stream at inspirefm.org and follow and subscribe to our social media platforms at Inspire FM Luton.